Installing Laravel is really simple. Just follow the installation instructions in the main page. The current Laravel version is 6. Scroll down and this is the code that we need to run. In order to run this command, we first need to have installed Composer. If you haven't done so, let's do it now. Copy this line of code and paste it in your terminal. Then copy the second line, paste it in the terminal and type enter. You will get the message installer verified. Now let's copy the third line and paste it on the terminal. This line of code will get composer.var, which is the main Composer file. Now copy the last command and run it on your terminal. Now that Composer is successfully installed, let's install Laravel. Copy this line of code and paste it on your local terminal. You have to change the project name in here. I will call it Laravel API. Let's wait till it's done. Now that everything is installed, let's go to the folder and run php artisan serve. This will run Laravel server on port 8000. Let's open localhost page now on localhost port 8000 and you can see that Laravel has been successfully installed. Now that Laravel has been installed, we have to make database connection. Open the project with PHP Storm and in the right side you can see the database tab. Click on it and add a new data source. I will add MySQL. Enter your local credentials. My DB is called auth, username is root and my password is the same too, root. So now we need to populate the database. To do so, we have to run migrations. They are located in the database migrations directory. We have 3 tables, the user table, password resets table and failed jobs tables. First, let's make a change to the users table. We won't need the name column, we need first name and last name. Also, you have to remove the email verified at column. Remove remember token too. We don't need these fields and now we're ready to run our migrations. Open terminal and type php artisan migrate. I got an error in here, but it happens because I didn't change the DB credentials on the .env file. Let's go and change them. Type on database name auth, username root and password root. These are my local credentials, so put your own ones. Now let's run again php artisan migrate and you will see that the tables have been now created. Let's check here and you will get your tables. Now that everything works fine, we are ready to create our first API call. Let's first create a controller. Open the terminal and type php artisan make controller and I will call it hello controller. The controller has been created successfully and you can find it on app http controllers. Click on it and let's create our first method. I will call it hello and will return just some hello text. Now we have to create our root. Since that we are building a single page application, let's add it on api.php. We don't need this for now, but we will create it later. Now type route get hello route from hello controller at hello, which is the method. Now open the terminal and type php artisan serve. The server is running and let's open Postman to check it. Type http localhost port 8000 and the route api/hello. So we got the hello message. Seems to work fine. But I don't like having the API on our route. I want to just call it API. Let's remove it. Go to providers folder and open route service provider. And you have 2 routes in map method, API and web ones. We remove the web routes and go down to map API routes and remove the prefix API. Go back to Postman and you will see that this route won't work. Remove API from the route and you will get the correct response. In order to use Laravel API authentication, we will use the Laravel package called Laravel Passport. This package has already all the steps to be followed to create the authentication for our APIs. Let's start its installation. Open the terminal and run composer require Laravel Passport. We wait till the installation is done. Now run php artisan migrate. This will migrate all the tables needed for Laravel Passport authentication. Now run php artisan passport install. This will generate two clients. Save them now in the .env file client 1 and client 2. Now go to your user's model and add has API tokens from Laravel Passport. Now open OAuth service provider and add passport routes. Import the class, and now we have one last step. Go to config, auth, and in the Guards API change it from token to passport. And we are done. Open the terminal and run php artisan route list, and you can see that we have a lot of routes now, which are the OAuth ones, and also we have the hello one. Before creating the login route, we have to populate the users table, because we will need real data before logging in. Go to user table and first change the name to first name and last name, because we changed them during migration. Also, we remove the email verified at. Now go to factories folder and open userfactory.php. Change the name to first name and last name. Remove email verified at and remember token. Note that password has been set to password, an encrypted version of it. Now we have to create our users table seeder. Write php artisan make seeder, users table seeder. We go to seeds folder and we now have our users table seeder. Here we write factory, user class, and the amount of rows we want to insert in database. So basically, this is a command to create 10 users using the factory that generates 10 fake data. Go on the database seeder and we already have the call to run the users table seeder to seed our users table in the database. To run it, type php artisan db seed. So we have an error. I mistyped first name instead of first name, so let's change it and return it again. Open users table and you can see that we have 10 users now, all with password. Now that we seeded our user table, let's create the route for our login. Open the terminal and type php artisan make controller auth controller. Open the file and let's create our login method. It will have a request as a parameter. To log in, we will use the auth attempt function. I will add an if condition to check if the attempt is successful or not, and request only the email and password. So we attempt to log in via the email and password. So if the attempt is successful, we will get the user. So we got the logged in user and we will just return it. If the attempt doesn't work, I will just return a response with message invalid username, password, and the status code will be 401, which is the unauthenticated. Before trying it with Postman, let's add our new route on routes api.php. It is a post method, so type route post login auth controller at login. Now open Postman and on a new tab just type localhost 8000 login. It's a post method, so we need to add the parameters. And the email, taken it from the database, let's pick a random one. I will take the first one and password is just password. Let's try it out and we got the user data response. But this is not enough because when we log in we also need an OAuth token. Let's go to our controller and create an access token. Typing token equals to user create token and it needs a name as a parameter. But right now Laravel doesn't recognize the user parameter, so we will highlight it as a command right here by adding user, and now create token is highlighted as a method that does exist. In the name I just call it up and add the access token. So we need to return the user and the token, and I will use it as a response. Type response message success token token and user user. Go to Postman again and you will see that we have a long text in here, which is the access token. We will use it for our users to get logged in, and based on it we will get all the information for the logged in user. We will go back again to our controller and add another condition to handle the failure of access token generation. Let's add a try catch statement. I will add a general exception in here, which will return a response message exception, get message and status 400, which means a general error. So let's go back to Postman and change the email variable. We'll get our message invalid username password. So till now we got the correct response. Created our login route, we need to create the route where we get our user data from the token. Let's do it now. Let's create a method called user, and this will return just auth user. This is a simple approach to return user data, but there is something you need to know. First, let's add the route. Just type route get user auth controller at user. So let's open Postman, type the get user URL, and you will see that nothing is returned. We need to provide the token in the headers to make it work. To do that, copy the access token from the post method, and in the headers of get user route we have to provide the authorization header, and we need to do it with a bearer. If we type the send, we will see that we still don't get the current user because we need to add a middleware. Let's add it by typing middleware auth API. This is a middleware provided by Laravel Passport, and we need it in order to get the current logged in user data. If we go back to Postman and type send, we can see now that we are getting the current logged in user. So to conclude it, to get the current logged in user data, you will need to create a get method, a route for it that contains the authorization header structured by bearer and authorization token, and the route itself needs to have the middleware auth API. Now let's create the register route. Start by creating the register method, and as parameters we'll have the request. Registration will be pretty simple. We'll just need to create a new user by typing user, create, and the fields will be first name, request, input first name, last name, request, input last name, and email, request, input email. For the password, in a little bit different because we need to encrypt it. We'll use the Illuminate support facade hash, and the function is hash make request input password. Return user and go open Postman. We forgot to add the route, so let's first go to api.php and type route post register auth controller at register. Go back to Postman and create a new post method, and in the body add email, password, first name and last name. I added some random data on it and now type send. We can see that we got an error. Field first name doesn't have a default value, so I think I know the reason. Go back to user model and you will see that I have mistyped the first name column. Let us try it again now, and yeah, it works. So we got the new user data, but if we resend the data again, we will get an error as duplicated data. The email has to be unique in the database, that's why. Let's handle this error case. Let's use try catch here. Return response, message, exception, get message, and status code 400. If we run it again in Postman, we will get a prettier version of the error. But still, if we try send the request with a missing parameter, we will see that we will get an error. But let's add a request to handle these errors. Open terminal and type php artisan make request, and I will call it register request. So it is located in HTTP request register request. Click on it and change authorized to true, because every user is authorized to do this request. Now let's add some validations, which will be the rules for our inputs to be validated. Let's start with first name, which should be required. We do the same for last name too, and for email we type required and email. Type password required to and password confirmation required and same as password. Let's run it on Postman and we will see that we don't get the password confirm. Let's go and edit. I will give it a different value than password, and here we get an error. The password confirm and password must match. Also for the email we go and add unique in users table, and now you will get another error message format, which is a nicer one, I can say. Got password functionality. The logic behind it is that the user will send a post request with an email as a parameter. Our backend will use that email to send an email to the user with a link where he can reset his password. Let's see how we can use it. First, open the terminal and type php artisan make controller. I'm gonna call it forgot controller. Open the file and let's add a new method called forgot. Open the terminal again and let's create a new request. Type php artisan make request forgot password request. Edit inside the forgot method parameters. Let's open the request and make authorized true and add the rule email should be required and email. Let's go back to forgot controller and inside our method type email request input email. First, we need to check if the user with this email exists. Let's add the condition. Type if user where email equals to email doesn't exist, then return response message user doesn't exist, and the status code is 400, or better 404, because it doesn't exist. First, we will generate a token which will be a random string. We will use Laravel string random and put a length of 10 characters. We will store this token in the database in the restore token table. We already have the password resets table, which has an email and a token. Our problem now is that we don't have a model for password reset, and that's why I am going to use the DB class. First, select the table password resets and insert email and token. After this, we will send an email. To handle the failures, we will add try catch. We will catch the exception, return response message exception get message and the status 400. After we send an email, we will send a response message check your email. Everything looks fine, so let's add the route now. Route post forgot controller at forgot. And open Postman, copy the URL and change it with forgot. It should be a post request and we need to provide an email. We get an error because the method doesn't exist, so we made a mistake. This method doesn't exist, it has to be without s, so we change it. We run it again and we get check your email. Everything works fine. We change the email and we get an error. If you get an error like this, just copy this header. Send it again and you get a correct error. Now we are ready to send an email. Before we write any code, we need to install Mailcatcher to send emails in localhost. There are a lot of other apps to be used, but I will use Mailcatcher on this tutorial. Go down the documentation and in the How section, we run these commands to install it. Copy the first one. Before installing it, I have to make some changes in my .env file because I have already installed it. I will change the mail host to localhost. Also, the mail port has to be 1025 and mail from address change it to random email address. Now type in the terminal Mailcatcher and it will run on this port. Copy it and open the browser. Paste it and this is the interface. Now that we run Mailcatcher, we have to create the email. Go to Resources, Views and create a new directory here called Emails. On the folder, create a new blade file, forgot.blade.php. Here just type change your password here. This will be a link. And the link will be localhost 3000. This will be a front-end port reset and we need to pass a token here. Let's use this function in our forgot controller. Type mail send mails. Forgot and as second parameter the token and the last one is a callback function that has the message parameter inside. Here we will provide the email we need to send to the forgot password email. Type message to email. Add the use method for the email because now we get it as undefined. Now everything is okay. We also have to provide a subject, reset your password. Let's try it out. So let's check it on Postman, type send and check your email. You see that the email is on our inbox. Check the email of the here text. It is the one we sent with a 10-character token string. Now we will make the API call to reset our password. Let's do it. Let's create a method called reset. Also, let's create a request for this method. Type in the terminal php artisan make request reset request. Edit on the method parameters. Let's go to the request, make authorization true and add the rules. It should have a token, which is required. It should have a password, also required, and also a password confirm required and match the password. Now let's go back to our reset method and request the token. I will also add a new if statement. If password resets, we'll get the token from the database where match the token that we have. We will get the first instance of it. The condition should be if the password resets doesn't exist, then it will return response message, invalid token and status code 400. If this token exists, we will get the user that wants to change the password. We also have to make an if statement here so we can check if this user doesn't exist and we return response message user doesn't exist and status code 404. If both of our conditions have been fulfilled, we get the new password. Don't forget to encrypt the new password before saving it to the database. After encrypted the password, as I mentioned, save it to the users table, return response message success, and let's comment the method, and now we save the new user's password. So we added this commented line, so we highlight our save method. Now that we are done with reset method, let's add the new route. Type route post reset forgot controller at reset. Open Postman and let it post on the reset method. On the body, add token, password new and password confirm new. Let's try it now if it works, and successfully it works. If you want to make sure that your password has been changed, let's go to the login URL on Postman, change the email to the last one that you used. I used a@a.com and add the password that you changed. My new password is new. Type the send button and I can see that everything works fine, so the login is successful and the login has been changed.